Hi everyone. It's so wonderful to see everybody's faces, and I'm sure in a normal time we would have really enjoyed being around a table and enjoying lunch together and having an interesting chat, but this is a good second. And thank you so much for your kind words. I wanted to preface that I too am suffering from a really difficult migraine right now, and my brain and my mouth aren't working very well, but I'm going to continue to try my best. And it's an ocular migraine, and so I'm wearing my glasses. So anyways, and I also wanted to say to some of the speakers here that I too suffer from chronic illness, and it's something I don't talk freely about, I guess, in social media, just because it's my own private struggle currently. I'm open to talk about it, but I also try not to make it the focus of who I am. Just still trying to figure it out, but it's been 10 years now, and so it's shaping. And I with Sylvia, I really connected with your sense of losing a bit of who you are, I would say. So I'm still struggling with that, and this migraine's not helping. So forgive me if in any way I don't articulate the way I'd like to. Yeah, so where to start? I'll try and be brief because it is a long story, like I'm sure we all have to share. I married my husband when I was very young. I was 17. It's a long story that we can talk about another day, but it turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. And part of that decision, I chose to convert to Islam, which was also something I didn't have to do, but I chose to do. And it's also been a very important part of my journey in my life thus far. And in that, we've had 5 children, but prior to Mirchi Cafe, we had 3, and I was watching them grow up. But prior to even that, my love story with my husband started in my family's Italian restaurant. And he had just come from Pakistan, and he had 3 jobs, and one of his jobs was my family's restaurant. And so fast forward that journey of us falling in love, working together in the restaurant, I then entered Culinary Academy when I was 18, and decided that was the career that I would stick with. Excuse me. And so I worked with my family's restaurant. My grandfather passed away suddenly while we were in Pakistan from a heart attack, and that kept me. It was right after I graduated from Culinary Academy, and I was 20 at that point. So I decided to stay in the business rather than to go out into the culinary world like I had planned to work with other chefs. And there was a part of me that, not recently, but a few years later, where I kind of felt like I missed out on not working under other flagships. But as I've grown into my maturity, I realized like this was what was written for me. And this, had I not stayed in my family's restaurant and taken just from my surroundings and understanding the business on all levels, rather than just, working in the kitchen, because I managed that business with my family for years. And so it gave me all of the aspects of running a restaurant. And that's how I believe we were able to, open Mirchi Cafe in 2004. And we started in Fremont in a really rundown location because it was affordable. And we had just closed our Italian restaurant and sold the lease to another restaurant. So, and that's another part of the story. It's too much to explain for time. But I was like without a restaurant for a year in my life, because when my grandparents opened, I was 3, and I had literally never just been outside of a restaurant environment in my entire, adult life. And that 1 year was the year that we were at least building up Mirchi. And so I've been grateful that I've pretty much been in the restaurant business my entire life. And it's something that I stay in because of my love of the industry and my love of feeding people. And it's truly something that, and I've heard many people say this, if you don't love the business, then it will crush you. And it still crushed me, as you can see, because I have migraines and I have some chronic illness. But but it was worth it, and it's still worth it, and that's why I continue. And so when we opened Mirchi, my focus was to tell the story of the coming together of my husband and I, through our through the food on our plate. And I had traveled to Pakistan many times in our marriage, and I just loved it. And every time, post 9/11, whenever someone like, oh, where are you from? Where's your husband from? And I didn't have on hijab at that time, this head covering, something I chose about 5 years ago. But so I just looked like a blonde lady that, could mix in with just about anyone. And when they found out my husband was from Pakistan, it was like, oh my God, have you ever been there? And it's like, yeah, I have. I love it. It's such a great place. And they was like, oh my God, it's not safe. And it's like, no, it is safe. And it actually is. So that was another layer to the business. I wanted to show the beauty of Pakistan and try and, bridge the hearts. I feel like, again, the food, the art, music, there are three bridges that, and I thought if I can do all three at once, then we can really start hopefully, building this connection to the beauty of Pakistan rather than the dangers and all those negative words that, unfortunately come with Pakistan. And so it was a huge struggle because, even though I had this, history of being in the restaurant industry from birth, basically, I didn't link the two communities. And back then there was like not really any social media. So it was, Tri-City Voice magazine. They were the first people to come in and interview our business. It was really hard to get the word out, but then when our customers would come in, it was very much ethnic for them, and it was scary. And so it just didn't fit, and we decided let's just narrowly focus on our community. And so we basically offer halal comfort American food with like Indian Pakistani twist, and that was our decision right away. I had a lot of Italian dishes on the menu that I ended up just cutting and editing because our people, again, now it was like trying to find the fit. Like, okay, we don't fit over here and we don't fit over there. So where do we fit? And that's kind of been the focus of I wouldn't say my identity, but I don't really fit anywhere, and I'm okay with that now. But for a lot of times in my life, I felt like I want to fit in. I want to, I want to be a part of. And I was neither here nor there. I wasn't Pakistani, and suddenly I was no longer a typical American person that could just fit in. I had this different story to tell, and I've just made it my own at this point. And thank God for age and just comfort of knowing who you are. And so so that's a piece of what made the business, because I had a lot of insecurities when I opened, because again, I was just I was born with blonde hair and black eyebrows, very strange, but that's what happened. And then my hair started getting slightly darker, so I started dyeing it more blonde, right? Because that's the way I saw myself. And so this woman would enter the space, and a lot of our community would kind of freak out and think that our business wasn't halal because this white woman standing there with blonde hair. So I had that experience to deal with too. So if you add it all up, it's been scarring, and I do have the scars, and they're still there. But again, thank God for, growing older and wiser and going back to that, accepting who you are. It all shaped my experience of running this business and being a woman, and a woman in the restaurant industry as is a really difficult place to be. And there's not a lot of support on that level. And then being a halal chef is also another piece that's been very interesting. It's kind of I would say it's like a lonely place to be, because I'm not, from my own choice, I'm not able to partake in today's most, hyped kind of like best life, which is a glass of wine and, the best pork chop you've ever had or whatever. Like, it really, you end up in the corner, and I'm okay being in that corner, and I've decided that that's a place that I'm happy to be. But it's taken a journey, and it's taken a lot of inward thinking and acceptance and a lot of meditations to come to the reality that we have to choose what's best for ourselves and our hearts and our, when you feel that so deeply, it's really what pushes you forward. And I'm just holding tight to that. The business itself, it took off right away, we had we had a friend who knew Imran Khan, and this is when he first started his political campaign, and he was coming through California. So somehow he agreed to be at our grand opening. So it was this really fun, it's like another long story, but not enough time. And anyway, so he opened the business, everything popped off, and it was like, oh wow, this is great. And then a month later, it was like crickets. Nobody was there. And I was sitting there like, oh my gosh, where's everybody? And it took about 3 years for our community to get comfortable with what we were offering. So we're not offering traditional Pakistani food whatsoever. It was like burgers and pasta and pizza, and sure, there were flavors of Pakistan, but it was just too new. And I feel like, let's see, 2004, so I think we're coming up on, seven, so we're in 16th year, and 16 years ago was another world in a lot of ways. And I now see that we've grown into our market, and but now we're kind of, aside from COVID, that's like a whole nother story. But the restaurant industry has changed so much on so many levels over the years, and we're still trying to figure out because we're like a family-run table service type of a restaurant in which we want to connect with our customers. We don't want to stick with counter service, and we don't want to just stick with people running in and running out. We want it for our restaurant. It's definitely a community that we focused on. We do a lot of as much reach out as we can to the community over the years. And we just had this really, so every Ramadan we have a festival for the kids, so that they also, because a lot of times it always becomes adult centric where everybody's just talking to their friends and the kids are off in the corner. So we really wanted to make it about our children, and so we have this yearly free event where you just get a free registration ticket, show up, and we feed you, and there's fun activities for the kids. And this year with COVID, obviously we couldn't do that, so we decided to do a drive-through package meal, and just to at least see the people that we miss so much. We miss our customers. We see them, but we don't see them. We're connecting with them, but we're not really connecting with them on the level that we'd like to. So that was it's been how we've been coping with COVID, by just keeping it really simple and bringing everything down to the basics, not trying anything new, and just trying to keep our quality to the best of our ability. And in general, like, I guess the last thing I'd add is we decided to open our second location in Dublin, and that's why I'm sitting in this rollout, this Dublin rollout. It's been 3 years, and again, it's been an adventure, because opening a second location, I'm only one person, and I have a beautiful team of family members that support me, and that's how I continue. But two businesses separately, apart from each other, has been a challenge, and we've had a lot of bumps in the road, and we're finally, I think with COVID, the only blessing that we've seen so far is, like, because we pared down so simply, like, it's starting to make more sense. So it's like less is more on all avenues. That's something I've been thinking a lot about in these last few months. So I look forward to serving all of you, and I pray that we can all join around a table someday soon. And again, feeding people is my favorite thing to do, and I really hope to have the opportunity someday soon.